Despite heading to Oklahoma a year early, Jeremiah Fears immediately exceeded expectations and turned heads as a potential one and done early on in the season. Now, he had his share of struggles through a tough SEC, but his dynamic handle and ability to make plays in a variety of ways kept him one of the more intriguing creators in the class. He's listed at 6'4", we'll see how that looks at the combine, but he put up about 17, 4 and 4 as the life source of this OU offense, and he really turned it on late with some big games against the likes of UConn, Georgia, and Missouri. Now, questions about his shot, his finishing, and how much value he's giving you defensively still remain, especially as a smaller guard, but he's one of the most intriguing playmakers in the class. Now, Fears' ability to put pressure on defenses as a driver is his best skill and the base for everything else in his game. He's dynamic with the ball and has the best handle in the class. He changes pace well, he's shifty, and just kind of plays off of that. He's got plenty of counters. He likes using misdirections like between the legs and in and outs, and also has the more traditional crosses in there. And his ability to navigate traffic in tight spaces has stood out as well. Now, one of the things I've been most impressed by is his ability to play through contact and actually be the initiator of that physicality in a lot of situations, which for a smaller guard is pretty essential for NBA success. He uses his off arm well to maintain driving angles, and the way he attacks bodies and has completely dislodged some future NBA bigs and forwards was pretty wild to see. Now, I'm sure NBA defenders will pick up on some of this and try to catch him initiating contact to draw those offensive fouls, but I do think it'll be more positive than it is negative. He's also very good in the open floor and can be an absolute blur when he puts his mind to it. He shot nearly 60% in transition and has to be one of, if not the fastest guy with the ball in his hands in this class. Now, the finishing took a hit as the season progressed, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on, but the pieces for future success have been there, from the sheer volume of paint touches and his free throw rate to embracing physicality and being a solid athlete. So while he's not where you want to be percentage wise, there's at least some reason for optimism.
Over, or I should say,
in the second half. Fears crept in.
Guard Jalen Moore. I think Jalen Moore can be an all-league player by the end of this. He's playing like it so far this season.
Fears turns on the Jets and then alerts 7 of their last 8. Fears decides to go to the rack, throws it up.
In his rhythm, setting up his man so he can rise into that pull-up J. Sweet shot.
There goes Fears, monster in the second half.
Also been fouled 8 times in this game. You really have 5 guards out there.
And Fears along the baseline, good dime. He saves it out for Fears. His leaner banks home.
Carter, wild layup, rebounded down to Moore. For Oklahoma, they don't want to take a bad home loss to a 1-10 winning team.
To go to the freshman, Marshall got it but missed it.
Fears lost the handle, and then Newman was a little lazy going after it, and Fears beat him to alive. And another empty trip for the Cats. Fears.
He also shows some real upside in the pick and roll and in moments as a shot maker, particularly from the mid-range. He's one of the higher volume pick and roll ball handlers in the country, and he managed to stay fairly efficient despite not being much of an outside threat yet. The pace and ability to navigate traffic using hostage dribbles, snaking, and taking advantage of the occasional Gortat screen stood out. And if he sees daylight with just him and the big in front, he's got the quickness to easily get around them and find a solid look at the bucket in most instances. He can also get to a pull-up in a ton of situations. Like we said, he's overwhelmingly better from 2 right now and has been the last couple years, so he'll need to continue expanding, but being able to find this many good looks that are mostly self-created is positive, and the separation that his handle and deceleration allows him is impressive. He will still need to become more efficient here and continue growing as a 3-point shooter first and foremost, but the pick and roll scoring and pull-up upside is part of his long-term appeal as a playmaker, and him being as confident as he is a definite plus.
Fears again. Fires, got it. He's so Fears wants it with 6 on the shot clock. That's defender on his hip.
Anyway, the answer will be yes. Thank you for participating in my made-up exercise. Fears elbow jumper.
Shoot around. I'm not sure if it's because you were in the house and you're a former Hog, but he doesn't hog the basketball if the shot isn't there. Fears
Fears dances around Williams. That was awfully impressive.
He's such a good shooter.
Fears sheds his recent memory.
ACC 10-1 today. There's jumper from the
And he's been dominant in many ways.
And now Grill and others left to try to guard Fears. Oh, what a move. Fakes.
Now, Fears' potential as a passer and playmaker is easy to see and stems from his ability to put pressure on defenses as a driver. He's not the most advanced passer or someone that'll consistently wow you in that aspect, but he's solid at drawing help and making reactive reads. He averaged about 4 assists a game, the assist percentage was near 30, and his ability to make dump offs and open up angles for wraparounds stood out, and he can't make the kick out after collapsing the defense. He also did a ton of work in the pick and roll using those same elements and can make most basic reads. I think his timing can improve in reading the low man and what the help is doing, but he hits the roller and pop man. He can make the occasional skip pass to the corner, and most importantly, his team had a ton of success with him making things happen here. Now, he'll need to add some more polish as a decision maker and in his precision as a passer. We'll talk a little more about this because the turnovers were still pretty high and handling aggressive coverages is a work in progress, but the upside is certainly there for him given what he can do as a downhill and overall scoring threat, and at his age is a pretty good start knowing how difficult it's been for some of the previous class of guards we've watched, and most freshman guards in general don't have the type of responsibility that he did.
to level off at the rim and take away a 2. 4-point lead. Northweather left open. That's huge. To Molly's report, though, Oklahoma closed out and did not jump at Newell.
Fears to Goodine. That's a 3.
Hubbard guarding Fears. Fears into the corner. Elvis catch, shoot, made.
Here's Northweather. That's
NCAA tournament debut. Fears, nice find. A lot of attention. Shooting practice force.
Fears does.
Turned 18 in October. He reclassified. Was supposed to be a senior in high school this year. He finds more on the wing.
Stripped away. Here's a steal. Oklahoma with numbers. Goodine lays it in.
One shot to this point. Need to get him more involved. Jalen Moore goes to
Point and missed. Sooners want to run. Fears and Moore run. Moore backside.
Stepping in for the steal is Wagee. Fears leaves it for the layup and doesn't.
Now, Fears has a few areas that he'll have to improve in order to both earn lead playmaking responsibilities and fulfill his potential, and the shooting is near the top of that list. He shot 28% from 3 overall on less than 4 attempts a game, and he struggled quite a bit off the dribble. It's been a trend for him in the past, and if he's going to earn high usage in the league, he's got to be able to punish drop and unders consistently and also convert as an ISO threat in those situations that he's shown he can at least create a good look for himself. Now, on the positive side of things, he was actually solid off the catch and improved as the year went on. He didn't have a ton of opportunities doing it, and I'd be more concerned in his willingness to play off the ball. To me, that's the differentiator between he and someone like a Dylan Harper, who were almost identical in splits and volume, but nonetheless, Fears has at least shot a solid clip at this stage. He doesn't have clear flaws mechanically, though. He can be a little inconsistent. He shot 85% from the free throw line, which is a huge plus, and I don't think you can completely determine his career based on who he's been as a 16 to 18-year-old, but it's not there yet, and we'll have a big say in how effective he is. And taking everything into consideration, the expectation probably shouldn't be much higher than league average on solid volume at his best.
Fears takes a look at the clock. He floats this one.
7 from 3-point land.
Fears left alone. 3 on the way.
They said it's nice to be home again. Her grandmother used to work at the president's.
Off the screen, Fears will launch it.
Now, despite being an undeniable downhill threat, the most pressing improvement area in his game is probably his finishing. He shot around 50% at the rim overall and just about 45% in the half court, both of which are a real concern, and as a questionable shooter at best. He's got to have at least one of them be better, otherwise it's going to be almost impossible to be efficient enough to warrant lead guard responsibilities. Now, there's a lot that could be at the root of someone's issues here. Some guys are bad athletes, some are afraid of contact, some take really bad angles. He's not really any of those to me, which is positive, but I do think it's a combination of decision making and making things tougher with what he tries at the rim, and then you've got your regular old smoke lays or missed easy opportunities. Now, it's not uncommon for someone like him to struggle here, and you can make up for it if you can get to the line at a high rate, which he does, or if you can compensate with a floater. But the rim pressure doesn't mean nearly as much if you can't convert at around a league average clip. I would expect him to figure this out to an extent, but it's not a guarantee. And knowing the worst thing next to a turnover is a missed layup, that factors in here in terms of importance too.
Credit and all kinds of headlines. And again, not to take anything away from
in the air. The degree of difficulty Vanderbilt has had to try to score with. My goodness.
It's a shoot.
In this first half. Fears to the baseline. Scoop shot.
Now, the last part of his offense that can use some polish is his decision making. He had a high turnover rate, and you'd see some of those issues we alluded to earlier in overdriving into no man's land, which could take them out of flow, or driving without a plan and throwing an errant pass, or giving the ball away in traffic. And some of the shots he took were questionable too. Now, I'm not as concerned with that on the surface because you only had to watch a couple OU games to see how important he was to their success, but there's a lot of times where he's needed to take better advantage of what the defense has given him, because he'll create a look and have his defender leaning a certain way and then end up forcing something else that was more difficult. And when you're also shooting about 20% off the bounce from three on that many attempts, you got to ask some questions. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it takes away from the positives in his skill set, but when we're talking standards for the position or the role today, there's only so much you can get away with and still be deemed as worthy to have the ball, so there's going to need to be some patience built in for him in this aspect.
Missouri did not get off to a fast start.
Oklahoma, they love the transition. Fears and Fears with 7.
And he's gone to the paint. Good hands.
Fears, just a dynamic score. Takes the ball.
And finishing things up on the defensive end, he's naturally going to get picked on because he's a smaller guard who doesn't make up for it with elite activity or lateral quickness, but he has enough to not be a cone or someone that just has to be incredible on offense to be worth playing. The expectations just shouldn't be all that high. On the ball, adding strength will be important for him. He already embraces contact, but to hold up against bigger players and offer more resistance in close and on ball screens, he'll need to continue improving there, which it looks like he is, and then just bringing more effort to stick in plays and give multiple efforts on a possession is a must, especially in the pick and roll. Off the ball, it's nothing too extreme where he's just caught standing or trying to get a breather, but even when he's been in the right spots, he's not able to make plays in a significant enough way to like hang his hat on that side of his defense. But I do think having a solid understanding of where to be is important for a young guard. He can jump passing lanes too, so he was at least decent in that respect. I wouldn't expect him to provide a ton of value defensively, and depending on the other personnel there, you're probably exploring cross matches on less threatening guards or leaning into the strengths of that supporting cast. That's just kind of how it goes, but I also didn't watch him frustrated in this will be the worst guard defender in the league even in year 3 type of way either.
From 3, you have to contest and get to him on the 3-point line, but you can't let him drive like that too easy.
Here's zips it here, Cardet Jr. going in heavy traffic.
Ball reversals and rescreens. McNeely comes to the ball. Book it, a 3.
What a great close to the season. Dayton Forsythe is having. Grill lines it up.
Diarra to Reed. He loses the ball.
I got there. Difficult pass.
Differential. Oklahoma 12 of 15. UConn is 4 of 4. Nice play. What a steal! And it's Fears taking it to the rim for 2.
You see the basketball pumped away by Fears. So quick and a slam.
Now, Fears is someone I think might convince a team in the top 6 of taking him as one of the more intriguing creators, but I still think because of the standards at his size and the lack of malleability, he could more appropriately go later than that. He'll ideally be one of your lead playmakers, and maybe it is nearsighted, but I think that's the only way he is successful in the league. And defensively, he'll probably get targeted for size purposes and being the weakest in the unit, but to me, he at least has the potential to get around neutral. The shot is going to dictate a lot for him, both on pull-ups and being able to provide value off the ball. And while I think he has one of the higher ceilings of anyone in the consensus lottery, if the shot isn't completely there, the decision-making remains spotty, and he's not giving you much defensively, that's probably not a rotational player, which comes back to why I think he could go either direction depending on how he performs pre-draft. I like Brooklyn as a landing spot. They'd have the freedom and patience to really allow him to learn on the fly. Toronto isn't picture perfect, but they could use the rim pressure and playmaking, and that structure could be good for him. And then Washington might be a bit high, but they'd be in the mix, along with a Dallas in the late lottery who just has to think about who else besides the mid-30s Kyrie can do something with the ball on this roster. Now, in terms of comparisons, he immediately reminded me a ton of Jeff Teague, and that's probably the most attainable comp. Reggie Jackson is another I could see him resembling, and then you've got someone like a Steph Marbury or maybe a Monte Ellis that comes to mind. It's obviously never one-to-one at all, but somewhere in that realm is where I could see him ending up. Jeremiah Fear's combination of downhill playmaking, dynamic handle, and upside as a shot maker give him obvious NBA appeal, and having the type of moments that he did as a young guard were pretty special. Now, as a smaller guy who has struggled to shoot it and doesn't also give you plus defense or an affinity for making plays off the ball, it's made it harder for me to be all in on him as a top 5 guy as much as I like his skill set, but the age, the playmaking, and the confidence is definitely worth considering in the right spot in the top 10.